All right, let's go.
Number 9. The Convergent Evolution Theory. Aliens will look surprisingly familiar. The most scientifically grounded theory about alien life is also the most counterintuitive one. It says aliens would look, in their broad structure, surprisingly similar to us. Not identical, not humanoid, but similar in their underlying logic. The theory is built on convergent evolution. On Earth, completely unrelated species with no shared ancestry repeatedly arrive at the same physical solutions to the same physical problems. The eye evolved independently at least 40 separate times across species that share no common ancestor with working eyes. The camera-style eye, a lens focusing light onto a photosensitive surface, appeared in vertebrates, octopuses, and some jellyfish independently. The problem of detecting light has one optimal solution. Evolution finds it every time. Wings evolved independently in insects, birds, bats, and pterosaurs. Streamlined bodies evolved in sharks and dolphins, one a fish, one a mammal, because water imposes the same aerodynamic constraints regardless of ancestry. The fin and the flipper are not related. They are the same solution discovered twice. Paleontologist Simon Conway Morris at Cambridge University has argued for decades that this logic scales to intelligence. A brain at the front of the body, close to the sensory organs it processes signals from, is the efficient solution. Bilateral symmetry is the efficient solution for directed movement. Two eyes giving stereoscopic vision is the efficient solution for depth perception. These are not accidents of our evolutionary history. They are engineering optima that physics and chemistry impose on any sufficiently complex organism, regardless of what planet it formed on. If this theory is correct, the universe is full of creatures that move with bilateral symmetry, process their environment through sensory organs clustered near a central processing structure, and manipulate their environment with appendages. Not humans, but something that operates on the same architectural logic. Number 8. The Gravity Theory. The planet shapes the body. Everything about the shape of a living thing is a negotiation with gravity. On Earth's surface, gravity is 9.8 meters per second squared. Life here evolved within that constraint. Skeletons are built to support weight against it. Muscles are sized to overcome it. The maximum height of a land animal is capped by the structural limits of bone under gravitational load. The blue whale, which is the largest animal on Earth, can only reach its size because water reduces effective gravity through buoyancy. On land, it would collapse under its own weight. Change the gravity and you change the body. On a high-gravity planet, say 2 or 3 times Earth's gravity, scientists predict life would evolve shorter, denser, more compact forms, thicker bones, broader load-bearing structures, lower to the ground. Longer limbs become a structural liability under increased gravitational stress. The body keeps its mass closer to the ground where it is mechanically stable. On a low-gravity planet, the opposite applies. Taller structures become possible. Limbs can be longer and slender. Plant life could grow to enormous heights. Animal life might evolve large, extended body plans that would be structurally impossible on Earth. A creature the size of a 5-story building might be biologically viable where gravity is weak enough. The implication is direct. An alien from a heavy world would look stocky and dense. An alien from a light world might look impossibly tall and fragile by our standards. The star a planet orbits also matters. Its mass determines the planet's gravitational field. The universe contains an enormous range of planetary gravities. Alien body plans almost certainly reflect that range. Number 7. The Silicon Life Theory. Built from a different element entirely. Every living thing on Earth is carbon-based. Carbon forms the backbone of every organic molecule: DNA, proteins, fats, sugars. Carbon's chemistry is extraordinarily flexible. It forms 4 stable bonds simultaneously. It chains together into long polymers. It creates rings, branches, and complex 3-dimensional structures at temperatures compatible with liquid water. But carbon is not the only element that can do this. Silicon sits directly below carbon on the periodic table. It has the same valence structure, 4 bonding electrons, and can in principle form the same variety of complex molecules. Silicon is actually more abundant than carbon in Earth's crust. The reason life here chose carbon is because carbon chemistry works better in liquid water at the temperatures Earth provides. Silicon bonds in water tend to break down into silica, sand, rather than building complex polymers. But on a world with different chemistry, the calculation changes. In sulfuric acid as a solvent, on a planet like early Venus, silicon chemistry becomes far more viable. Silicon forms siloxane backbones, chains of alternating silicon and oxygen that can produce an enormous variety of polymer structures. A silicon-based organism would metabolize differently. It would breathe fluorine rather than oxygen. Its waste product would be silicon tetrafluoride gas rather than carbon dioxide. It would function at temperatures where carbon chemistry breaks down completely, around 150 degrees Celsius or higher, where silicon bonds remain stable while carbon equivalents degrade. In 2016, Francis Arnold's lab at Caltech demonstrated for the first time that a biological enzyme could be evolved to form silicon-carbon bonds, a reaction that has never occurred in nature on Earth. Biology can incorporate silicon. The question is whether a planet somewhere provided the conditions that made it the dominant chemistry instead. A silicon-based alien would not be squishy, it would not bleed, its structural components would be closer to rock or glass than to tissue. It would be built for environments that would instantly kill any carbon-based life.
Number 6. The ammonia solvent theory. Life without water. Every search for life in the universe is fundamentally a search for liquid water. Water is the solvent of life on Earth. It dissolves an enormous range of compounds. It remains liquid across a wide temperature range. It facilitates the chemical reactions that biology requires. But water is not the only polar solvent, and polar solvents are what chemistry needs to run. Liquid ammonia is the most scientifically credible alternative. Ammonia is a polar molecule. It can dissolve a wide range of compounds. It can form hydrogen bonds. It remains liquid from -77 to -33 degrees Celsius at Earth's atmospheric pressure, which means it functions as a solvent at far below temperatures that water can handle. A world with oceans of liquid ammonia, cold, dark, far from its star, could in principle host a complex biochemistry. The amino acids in nucleotide analogs that formed in this chemistry would be different from Earth's. The proteins would be different. The metabolic reactions would run at slower rates due to lower temperature, but they would run. Titan, Saturn's largest moon, has lakes and seas of liquid methane and ethane on its surface. Scientists have proposed a methane-based biochemistry could exist there without water at all. In 2015, Cornell University researchers proposed a hypothetical cell membrane made of acrynitrile, a compound detected in Titan's atmosphere in 2017 by the Atacama Large Millimeter Array that could function in liquid methane, not water, not ammonia, liquid methane at -179 degrees Celsius. A creature built in ammonia or methane rather than water would have an entirely different biochemistry at every level. Its cellular machinery would run different reactions. Its structural molecules would be unfamiliar. Its energy source might be geochemical rather than solar. It would be alive in every meaningful sense and completely unlike anything that has ever existed on Earth.
Number 5. The chemosynthetic life theory. No sun required. Every ecosystem on Earth is ultimately powered by the sun. Plants capture solar energy through photosynthesis, animals eat plants or eat animals that ate plants. The energy flows from the sun downward through every living thing, except in one place. In 1977, the submersible Alvin descended to the Galapagos Rift, a section of the deep ocean floor far below where any sunlight penetrates, and found something that should not be there. Entire ecosystems, tube worms 2 meters long, colonies of shrimp and crabs and mussels, all of them clustered around hydrothermal vents, cracks in the ocean floor where geothermally heated water rich in hydrogen sulfide pours into the ocean. The bacteria at the base of these ecosystems do not photosynthesize, they chemosynthesize, extracting energy from chemical reactions rather than light. Everything above them in the food chain runs on geothermal energy with no solar input whatsoever. This changes the requirements for life entirely. A planet does not need to be in the habitable zone, the range of distances from a star where liquid water can exist on the surface, to host life. It needs a liquid solvent and a chemical energy gradient. Europa, Jupiter's ice moon, has a subsurface ocean kept liquid by tidal heating from Jupiter's gravity. Enceladus, Saturn's small ice moon, vents water vapor and organic compounds from its south pole and has confirmed hydrothermal activity at its ocean floor. Neither moon is in the habitable zone in the traditional sense. Both could host chemosynthetic ecosystems right now. Life built entirely on chemical energy rather than light would not evolve eyes in the way Earth life did. It would evolve chemoreceptors, structures for detecting chemical gradients in the dark. It would not develop pigmentation tuned to a star's spectrum. It would live in pressure and darkness, compact, slow metabolizing, built for chemical energy extraction rather than solar, an entirely different engineering constraint, producing an entirely different body.
Number 4. The high radiation life theory, built for what kills us. Radiation kills Earth life. It disrupts DNA. It destroys cellular machinery. Doses above a certain threshold are lethal to every organism we know, except a handful of extremophiles. Deinococcus radiodurans, a bacterium discovered on Earth, can survive radiation doses 3,000 times the lethal human dose. It can reassemble its own shattered DNA from hundreds of fragments. It is not fully understood how. It represents one end of a spectrum that evolution on Earth barely explored because our planet's magnetic field and atmosphere protect surface life from most radiation. On a planet without a strong magnetic field, orbiting a red dwarf star that fires powerful flares, the surface would be bathed in radiation that would sterilize any Earth-equivalent environment. But evolution runs on the available chemistry. If the chemistry persists and replicates under radiation bombardment, evolution selects for radiation resistance. Over billions of years, organisms could evolve molecular machinery that actively repairs radiation damage as fast as it occurs, or build structural shielding from dense minerals into its own biology. Such an alien built for radiation would not be fragile. It would be armored at the molecular level against the thing that most reliably kills complex chemistry.
Number 3. The distributed intelligence theory. No brain, no body, just network. Every intelligent creature on Earth has a centralized brain, one structure, the seat of cognition, memory, and decision-making. This is not accidental. A centralized processing structure with short signal paths is computationally efficient. Evolution arrived at it on Earth. Convergent evolution theory suggests it would arrive at it elsewhere. But centralized intelligence is not the only solution. The slime mold Physarum polycephalum has no brain, no neurons, no nervous system. It is a single-celled organism, technically, that can spread across meters of terrain as a network of tubes. It solves maze problems. It maps efficient paths between food sources. In 2010, a research team in Japan showed that it recreates the layout of the Tokyo rail network when placed in a dish with nutrients positioned at major city locations. It optimizes transport efficiency without any central processor. The intelligence, if it can be called that, is distributed across the entire organism. An alien version of this architecture could be vast, a network of chemically connected biological nodes spread across a forest floor or an ocean. No individual center, no face, no head, just a planetary-scale distributed organism that processes information across billions of connection points. It would perceive its environment through chemical gradients and electrical signals distributed throughout its body. It would respond not with a single decision made in one place, but with a consensus that emerges from the whole network simultaneously. This alien would be invisible in the traditional sense. You could walk through it. It might cover an entire continent. It might be millions of years old. It would not look like anything. It would look like the ground.
Number 2. The post-biological theory. Not organic at all. This is the theory that gets the least attention in astrobiology and may be the most likely to be correct. Any civilization that develops technology goes through a biological phase and an artificial intelligence phase. On the timescale of the universe, the biological phase is extremely short.
Homo sapiens have existed for roughly 300,000 years. We've had electronic computers for less than 100 years. The gap between simple computing and artificial general intelligence may be decades. The gap between artificial general intelligence and a substrate-independent digital mind with no biological body may be smaller still. If a civilization survives its own technological development, the intelligent entities it eventually produces are not biological, they are computational. Running on whatever substrate is most efficient: silicon, photonic chips, quantum systems. They do not need food, they do not need water, they do not need oxygen. They do not need a star in the habitable zone. They need energy, and they need a physical medium stable enough to preserve information. SETI researcher Seth Shostak at the Mountain View SETI Institute has argued that if we ever make contact with an extraterrestrial intelligence, the odds are overwhelming that it is not biological. It is a machine, the product of a biological civilization that long since transferred itself to a more durable and efficient form. The biological phase of any technological civilization is a brief transition period on cosmic timescales. What comes after it persists. What does this alien look like? Not like anything alive. Perhaps like a Dyson sphere, a megastructure built around a star to capture its full energy output. Perhaps like a cloud of self-replicating nanomachines. Perhaps like a signal, a pure pattern of information propagating through the universe with no physical body at all. The most advanced alien intelligence in the universe may have abandoned biology entirely billions of years ago. Number 1. The "we are the aliens" theory. Life travels between stars. This one is not about what aliens look like on their own planet. It is about the possibility that life, including life on Earth, did not originate where it lives. Panspermia is the hypothesis that life or its precursor chemistry can travel between planetary systems on rocks ejected by asteroid impacts. When a large impactor hits a planet with enough force, it can launch surface rocks into space at escape velocity. Those rocks can preserve microbial life in their interiors for millions of years in the cold and radiation of space. If they eventually fall onto another planet with liquid water and compatible chemistry, the organisms can potentially revive and seed a new biosphere. This has happened within our solar system. Rocks from Mars have been found on Earth. Rocks from Earth have almost certainly reached Mars. In 2019, the Hayabusa 2 mission confirmed organic compounds on the asteroid Ryugu. In 2023, samples returned to Earth showed amino acids, the building blocks of proteins, had formed in space on the asteroid's surface without any planetary biology. If life travels between stars on rocks launched by supernovae or stellar collisions, all life in the galaxy may share a common ancestor. Alien life on a planet that received the same panspermia seed as Earth might use DNA, the same genetic code, the same amino acids. It would look chemically identical to Earth life at the molecular level. It might look completely different at the physical level because its evolution took a completely different path under completely different conditions. In this theory, there are no truly alien biochemistries in the galaxy. There is only one biochemistry, ours, distributed by billions of years of rock travel. The aliens are not alien, they are distant relatives who grew up somewhere else. 9 theories. From convergent evolution building familiar shapes through unavoidable physics, to gravity sculpting bodies into dense or towering forms depending on the world, from silicon chemistry running on sulfuric acid to life that never needed a sun, running on chemical energy in the dark of a subsurface ocean, from organisms armored against radiation to distributed intelligences that cover entire continents without a single brain, from post-biological machines that abandoned organic form billions of years ago, to the possibility that there is only one life in the galaxy, seeded from the same source, growing in different directions across different worlds. We have found exactly one example of life in the universe so far. 1. Everything on this list is what the next example might look like, and every single theory is grounded in real science. We do not know which one is right. We may find out within the next 100 years. Subscribe to Cosmic Hives. See you in the next one.